Hello, here I am again in true Patrick fashion. I believe you can hear me. I'm actually going to turn this up a little bit. So, because my mic didn't work yesterday on the first video that I deleted, I'm glad I checked to make sure that the audio was good instead of being live for like 3 hours. I discovered that I can just use my webcam's sort of default mic, so I don't have to plug up the other one. Oh wait, so I just put these out for because it usually takes the first screen as the thumbnail when I do this. And so we have the Ten of Pentacles, the Seven of Cups, the Five of Swords, the World, and the Two of Pentacles. This Two of Pentacles is interesting because I saw the Two of Pentacles yesterday, and yesterday it was a lot closer to the chest. These two pentacles are completely up in the air. He doesn't really touch either one, and so it feels more energetic. Feels like that thing about being light and then the fairies sort of coming in. So, how I do this, and I titled this Feeling the Flow, because I've been watching more Yu-Gi-Oh! On the Anime All Day channel. And in Zexel, like, that's what the dude, he's like, oh, now I'm feeling the flow. So how I do this is I shuffle these up, and then when I stop, I pull a card, and then I allow the cards to determine sort of what I do. And we'll just do it as we go. And I keep going until I get a card of completion. For this, cards of completion, it is nines are cards of completion. I guess kings can be, because they're the end of the suits. The world card is a card of completion. Death can be, depending. The Ten of Swords can be a card of completion. The other tens feel like they sort of mark the end of one thing and the beginning of another. And that's just the general flow. Thank you! Welcome back to you as well. Ooh! The Hangman, the Four of Swords, and the Sun card. And there's a face in the sun here. Both of these happen in daytime. What's that? The Seven of Wands. It feels like there's something going on, but we may be inside missing it. I don't think we'd see it, even if we were outside. What's that? The Four of Pentacles? The Sun, the Four of Swords, the Hangman. This Four of Swords gives me like end of life energy, like at the end of this incarnation. And the Sun is like the beginning. See, I was just gonna say, like, every time I do these, they're kind of weird. Because I remember the first time I did this, there was an energy of like this story that was being told across like different times. And so it was like before we started this incarnation or early into this incarnation, there was like this trajectory that our life was sort of laid out in. And we were given something before a happening, or we were shown something before, so that we could choose a different timeline. But then somehow we ended up on that timeline, and it was like, well, don't you remember like what I showed you? Don't you remember what you agreed to? Now I think it was in a different one. So that timeline thing is sort of here. And the second time I did this, there was a masculine energy and a feminine energy. The feminine energy had a lot of within self lessons. The masculine energy had a lot of outside of self lessons. And it's like on one timeline, they both ended up apart. And this was him sort of like at the end of his life, having made sort of a name for himself and finding himself in a position of affluence, but having regrets. And maybe this, because it is the Four of Swords, it was him making peace with everything at the end. right? It's like, well, there's no use leaving with regrets. But if I could have done it differently, I would have chosen to follow my heart in some spaces rather than chasing the money or anything external, right? So I don't know. That's how this generally works. But I'm gonna give this three shuffles and then a cut, and then those other shuffle cut thingies, and then we'll see where we start. Oh, the title card is in here too. So if I hit the title card, then that's I don't really. Ooh, who is that? Judgment. What? Woo, that was like, oh goodness. That energy in this card. Woo. Is that an eclipse? Is that a moon and the sun on the necklace? And those are the eyes of fire that, like, we're all naked in front of those eyes. You can't hide anything. Even the grass, even the ground is naked. No grass, nothing. It's so hot. And then the back of justice and the seven of wands again. Oh, who was that? That seven of wands. I just saw the nine of wands, the back of the nine of wands. Hangman just tried to flip over. Anybody else want to flip over before we start? I'll give it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and cut. Oh, starting with the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands is this a card of complete? Well, it's a card of a minor completion. So we're starting at the end of one thing. But we bring two things together here. And the two things that we're bringing together, it's the Hierophant and death. This Hierophant reminds me, hey Zelda, how you doing today? Oh, snap. Sorry. Oh, Russ. Okay, sorry. This Hierophant reminds me of the Emperor card in the Witch's Tarot, where it carried this energy of like the Emperor was waiting for you to arrive. It was some card, the Ten of Wands and the Emperor. The Emperor was waiting for you to arrive at the palace, having carried those 10 wands, to bestow you with the Ankh and that golden egg. Glad to hear it, Zelda. Now it's the Hierophant and the Death card. This is something that's trading hands. I had a dream. I had a dream a while ago that there was this like a company that was like dissolving, or the leadership of the company was stepping down, and there was going to be someone else taking over. And so there was a lot of people gathered. I recognized a few people. Some of the people I recognize in these dreams, and I'm like, why? Like, why you? I don't get it. Like, what do you mean to me that I saw you, or were you just the face that populated this dream? And like I said, it was trading hands, and there was an MC, and I guess they were looking for the people who would take over. It's reminding me of that energy. This is a conceding Hierophant, though. But it's like before the Hierophant concedes, he wants to make sure. It's almost like, I want to find someone who's going to do this better than I did. Right? It doesn't make sense to hand this over to have a repeat of the same thing. And it's almost like this Hierophant energy after it hands over these two keys. Is this the Hierophant? This is the Emperor. Oh my gosh. This is the Emperor. This card reminds me of the Emperor because it is the Emperor. Hello? Why do I keep saying Hierophant? I know what the Hierophant looks like. As soon as I said this Hierophant is handing over the two keys, I was like, wait, the Hierophant actually has two keys. Not these two things. So this is the Emperor. So it's almost like, hey, this is a 444. 13 4, 4 of wands, and the Emperor is 4. Okay, well, we start with the 444. So what I was gonna say, it's like it's almost as if like when this energy finds its successor, it fades back into the stars. So maybe there was an energy. So let's look at the Hierophant. Because like I said, when Hierophant really, especially in the medieval Renaissance sort of European sense, when it came into power, it was able to teach those who like couldn't read or who wouldn't have the time. It was in a position to be there for those who had no other way really of creating or finding a spiritual connection through the religious context of Christianity at that point. Or was it Catholicism? I don't remember. One of the two at that point. And so it's almost like it started as an emperor, but it warped into a Hierophant because of the people's dependence on it. And it's like the Hierophant started out pure. It started out doing what it was supposed to do, but after it gained influence because of people's dependence on it, and then after it gained power, that's when things started to get weird. And so it's almost like in the Hierophant handing this over, or in the Hierophant releasing some power, it's like it goes back to being that sort of like divine masculine energy, more divine masculine energy. And so honestly, it's like this is an old masculine energy who's been warped by the desires of humanity. This is the return of that energy back into union with sort of what it originally and initially did. And again, it reminds me of this is the front side of all of these cards as well. And then we have the back side of the Nine of Pentacles. We're going to keep this, we're going to put this here. Actually, yeah, because it feels like this is the reason why that divine masculine emperor, that original Hierophant, became the sort of greedy, power hungry, twisted Hierophant that we know today. Because it's like people were sort of turning their back on the natural abundance and the spirit that was all around them in favor of this singular earthen Hierophant sort of energy. They poured more energy into it and it became something that it wasn't supposed to be. It's almost like their dependence and reliance on that twisted it. Because now instead of it being a tool, instead of it being the person that guides you, now it's the person that makes all of your decisions for you. And we have the front of the Nine of Cups. I said that nines were endings. So we started with a pseudo ending, and here's another ending. That's it. I would say like I can't hear this Nine of Cups. I don't know what this is saying. This is the end of this story. This is the desires of the people, right? It's almost like, oh, spirit is cool and it's all around me or whatever, but I'm living this hard life. So it's almost like an energy of forsaking a spiritual abundance for the pursuit of earthly pleasures or a more earthly abundance. And so what it did was for the people, these are the hierophants who sort of like almost became rich off of the people. This is the end of this story. This is the end. Like this little bit right here is how like divine masculine energy started becoming this toxic masculine energy that's all about control. And as this sacrifices and hands over these things to, and look, see the coat of this person? It reminds me of it reminds me of the Four of Swords, the guy at the end of his life. But it's like the hands are about to change. Now he's going to be released back into the stars to become that divine masculine. But before he can do that, it's like he has to find a successor. These two, the Page of Pentacles in reverse, or the back of the Page of Pentacles and the front of the Nine of Cups, is sort of like how he rose to power and stuff like that. Look at that one green light and then the white light. You see the green and the white? That's the heart and the crayon. Who was crying? If that makes sense. Does that make sense? I feel like that's this little story right here. Now that energy, it's choosing to give up. Now there will be some who don't, like obviously, not obviously, but there will be those who sort of like continue in that way. But the divinity in that energy, I don't want to say it's like bleeding out, but it's begging to be transformed and returned back to what it originally was. Okay, so that's this story. Oh, the lovers just flipped front face, so we're not going to see the back of them. All right, two more. We start with the back of Justice and the Three of Cups. The back of the Three of Cups. So it feels like divine energy is paired. It's like where you meet masculine, you'll also meet feminine to maintain sort of a balanced duality or a balanced polarity almost. And so when divine masculine energy warped, it's like as he lost more of what made him divine, it caused divine feminine energy to flee because she couldn't maintain a presence where like that divinity was being lost, right? And so this is like in the period of them both being gone, there's this sort of like roundabout happening, roundabout meeting energy. Who was that? It's like after he warped, then it put into motion this plan to sort of like get him back to his original space so that divine feminine energy could return as well. And that's sort of like, there's a little bit of like heralding here. Yeah. So this is spirit. It's like holding up the cup, which is a lamp, a lantern, a light. It attracts and draws these two in. Their cups are sitting right there. So now they're coming to get their cups. Now I need two cards to see what these are, right? And the one holding it is the Nine of Pentacles. And it makes sense. So, and they look, I mean, they share similar features. It reminds me of the Sacred Water. Holy Water, Ace of Cups, in the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. How she's like, here she's holding the Ace of Cups, there she's holding a dove. In the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, there's a dove above the cup in the Ace of Cups. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune and the King of Cups. So this is the energy, and it makes sense. She's grounded and stabilized within herself. But she also feels like she's outside. And look, she's like connected through the archway, like her crown on point. It's a networking energy. It's almost like Cerebro. I haven't seen a lot of X-Men, but I think like when Charles Xavier is plugged up to Cerebro, then he can like sort of sense all the mutants out there, type of energy. Now what's interesting is here's an energy that has the Ankh from the Emperor right here. So in the Wheel of Fortune, the Ankh is present, and on the other side, and they're both happening at night, he's holding a cup and a wand. I don't know what this is, and if I'm even gonna be able to do this. It's like it's not this headache feeling. This is the thing that's missing. So since this is the Nine of Pentacles, oh, these are the Pentacles. They're all in the garden. Oh, okay, yeah. This is the element of life itself. This one? Okay. So, no problem. She, oh my gosh, this is it's reminding me of what's her name, Idun. Uh, and she holds the apples for the gods in Norse mythology or something like that. It also reminds me of the golden apples of the Hesperides and how the golden apples of the Hesperides couldn't exist outside of the garden. Like outside of the garden, they would rot. And so one of Hercules' tasks was to get these apples, and then he brought the apples. Like he had to swap places with what's his name, Atlas. He had to swap places with Atlas to hold up the world. While Atlas went and got the apples, and Atlas was like, "Oh, I'll complete this task for you. I'm tired of holding up the world on my shoulders. Like, you can stay there." And Hercules was like, "All right, I'll stay here, but like, can you hold the world for a second so I can get a cushion so I'll be more comfortable?" And Atlas was like, "Yeah." And then, of course, Hercules took the apples and left Atlas to continue holding the world. And after Hercules delivered the apples to King whoever had gave him the tasks, the king was told, like, you have to return the apples because they're not sustained outside of the Garden of the Hesperides. And so it was almost like this moot task. But it's like she still guards the pentacles. In a lot of, or in some emperor cards, you'll see the emperor holding an ankh. The ankh was given to the emperor by the empress. And it's like the emperor, or twisted, sort of like hierophant energy that used to be the emperor, still holds on to the ankh, but these still exist within her realm. And so that's why she's sort of like outside. And with this King of Cups, it feels like she's trying to guide him to her through the realm of emotion, or through that connection. And the Wheel of Fortune is here. It's like the ankh we pick up as we live life sort of naturally. Or the ankh we can find ourselves in position, find ourselves in possession of, um, like we can get that from the Hierophant. Not directly, because the Hierophant isn't just going to give you the ankh typically, but the Hierophant can be the tool to eventually discover the ankh. But she still holds whatever this is. Maybe this is the thing that was his, and he gave it to her. Now they grow in her possession. The ankh was the thing given to him, and that's why it's still in his possession. That was the exchange. So there's this process that happens almost by itself because it's major arcana. Again, that'll lead you to the ankh. But she still holds these, and she beckons from beyond. And it's like this is her attempt, especially now that she can hold more of a presence, to almost like remind masculine energy of its divinity. Because again, I could be wrong, but it feels like we can't have too much of one divine energy without the presence of the other being there in sort of equal part, right? And so it's like if the divine masculine energy is absent or warped or not really present, then the divine feminine isn't there. And sometimes it seems we can sort of like project a divine feminine or divine masculine energy in a space, and it's like, well, we're still waiting for the other to get it together. But it's like, because for one to be present without the other, it feels like it would throw things out of balance. And so what happens is, it reminds me of the Leviathan Ten of Cups that came out in the weekly release. We go further and further and further within ourselves to find and unblock that which is divine within us. And then as we do that, and as the divinity rises within us, as we get closer and closer to the heart of the divine, then it welcomes more of the other energy. Or then the other energy sort of experience a similar natural resurgence. Now, since the dove is here, I'm just going to pick a card. And it's the Empress. Oh, well, yeah, okay. Work. Work, sis. I've never noticed. Oh, it almost looked like a scorpion today. So, the Empress. Now we have the Emperor and the Empress. The Empress, again, it goes back to that energy of like, if the masculine energy loses its divinity, then feminine energy also loses its power, because we can't really have one without the other. And I've always wondered why, like, it feels like the Empress card in this deck is a little barren. Like, it feels like it should be more lush. And it's because she gave the Ankh to the Emperor. And when they work in harmony, then it's like she, even though she gave up the Ankh, she sort of retains that power. But since the harmony was broken, it's like it also severed her from what was naturally hers. And like that was the price of the exchange. To keep things in check and to keep things in balance. And yeah, I feel like this is what happened, right? Here's the King of Swords. This is the Queen. I always confuse the Queen for the King. So this is the back of the Queen of Swords. So again, it's like it separated the Empress from who she was. So where she was naturally this sort of nurturing, warm, abundant energy, it's like in the space of her being separated from what was hers, she grew cold. Now she's absent. And again, it feels like these energies are connected. So as divine masculine energy warped and twisted, it caused a similar distortion in the divine feminine. And it's like they're quantumly connected, right? It's like when electrons are quantumly connected, if one of them changes spin, then no matter how much distance separates them, the other one will simultaneously change spin. Because that's the balance that they have. So now this is the Knight of Cups. This just became, it's nothing to be scared of. I mean, if you don't have anything to fear, then you don't have anything to fear. The Knight of Cups, this is this energy. Honestly, it reminds me of Moana when they had to return the heart of Tafiti. And like she had become that. So, spoilers, if you haven't seen Moana and you want to watch it, skip ahead 30 seconds starting now. I'll give you a second. So in the movie, there's this giant fire, like scorched earth fire monster that's wreaking havoc, right? And it was Moana that was able to tell, like, that is Tafiti. This is what she became when she lost her heart. And so she gives the heart back to the fire monster, and then the fire monster turns back into Tafiti and becomes that loving, nourishing earth mother energy again. This is masculine energy doing within himself what he needs to do, correcting whatever was sort of done over here to return her to who she was, and then in turn return him to who he was. That's why this Emperor in this card, he's in the space of conceding power. And it's almost like there's a piece there's a piece of, it's like emperor energy became fragmented. And so it's like there's a piece of like, as some hierophant energy becomes more divine and returns more and more to its sort of divine masculine emperor energy, it's like there will be sort of fragments and pieces that decide to hold on to it rather than open up exchange. And without open exchange, like that's why the back of justice is here. Because justice is sort of the one that confirms their union. Is that confirms, validates? Justice is the one that married the emperor and the empress. And whenever they have issues, they go to justice, and you know. So I feel like I'm not doing very well following this. But the night moves fast, so we skip ahead. And we end up at the Nine of Wands. And nines are cards of completion. So this is where I'm going to stop. This is the space where it's like masculine energy is now. These 8 wands in the ground, it feels like an 8 of swords energy. But it's one that he can see. And it's almost like as he's on his journey to return whatever it is that he's returning, to become whatever it is that he's becoming, to sort of set the scales to welcome the counterpart energy. It's almost like a little bit of a not a reckoning. It's almost like he was like blacked out for a certain amount of time, and so he wasn't fully aware of what it is that he was doing. But now he sort of has to see it. And it feels like him being in a space of observing what it is that he's done now that his heart is open, now that that element of communication is open, and now that that sort of surrender is present. It's like now he's beginning to feel the impact of everything that he was sort of numb to. Right. And this isn't like people necessarily. Like this isn't a twin flame reading or anything like that. It's energy. And it almost feels like in this space of realizing and recognizing, it's going to be this question of, this was a 9. Why didn't I stop here? I don't know. Apparently, 9s aren't endings today. They don't really feel like it. I think last time they felt like it. This time they don't. So maybe I'll still keep going. It's like now that the blinders are off, now that he's coming down off of that sort of rage high or anger high or control high or whatever, he's starting to see the impact of his actions, and it's gonna be a lot. And again, it almost reminds me of earlier after the sound healing that Russ and Matthias did. It was like it wasn't supposed to be like this. Because again, it feels like this energy, it started off as like helping people or being there. It's like it started off divine, but it was like the expectations of people or the pressure of people or the naivete of people that warped it. And again, it's like it reminds me of that Heroes of Olympus thing. It's like when you call a god by their Greek name, you get the Greek persona. When you call them by their Roman name, they shift into that Roman persona. It's like the energy was what the energy was, but then we started calling it a specific name. And then when we called it that, when we poured our belief into that as humans, then that's what began to twist and morph that energy. That's what then put that out of balance with whatever that feminine counterpart was. And it caused this separation, which triggered this whole process of her trying to get us back. Like there's this very like major, minor, like cosmic earth sort of energy, right? Like this is earth and masculine that tried to maintain divine. That's divine masculine. This, it feels like this would be like cosmic feminine. This would be earth and feminine. But this earth and feminine energy feels like it was able to maintain this connection better than this energy was able to maintain its connection. And it's like, as this night moves forward, it's like he sheds baggage, he sheds a lot of stuff. This is him by the end, almost the end of his journey, where most of his armor is off. But because all of this armor has come off, it's like now he's being hit with all of these realizations. And I am actually going to end it here. Like, this was the end to this chunk. This was the end to this. And this is the end to this. So we have like these three little pieces that have innumerable pieces between them. This is a piece where an old, more divine masculine, nurturing masculine energy was warped into this sort of like money hungry, power hungry thing when his desires became more earthly and carnal because of the dependence of people, the interaction with people on his energy. This is after things are sort of thrown out of line. Now it sets this long, long play into motion of us trying to come back into a space where we remember what it was like to be connected up here rather than connected down here. And how she sort of like through her natural domain of life sets us up for these experiences in life where we can choose to remember that connection and to get closer and to grow deeper in that, right? Where when as we get closer to her, we get closer to what it is that is our cups. So we can oh wait, never mind. I thought in this deck on the other side they all held them. I was thinking of the Three of Cups in the Tarot Apocalypses. So hey, at least she's not here anymore. Like she was trapped in stone now. Now it's like she's broken out or she's thawed out. And it's the same position. But now it's daytime. We're in a position like where we're dancing our way to her. Finding our space. It's like finding a groove and alignment. And it's almost like there's a lot of chance here because the back of justice is here. But maybe again, it's because this Wheel of Fortune is here. And it's like she's sending out these signs and signals, hoping for this peace. Now, with this piece, we see as divine feminine energy was separated more from herself because divine masculine energy fell out of himself, she sort of became cold. Or she wasn't able to show up as much as she was in the past. Because again, here, instead of us carrying that, or instead of us focusing on what naturally makes us abundant with that cornucopia, we follow out this glowing magical pentacle That is the incarnation of the divine on earth, which we warped this energy into like a hierophant, a twisted hierophant to become, rather than again us connecting to communing with spirit naturally to claim that abundance. We weren't looking for it from her anymore. So her fields dried up and she went cold. But you pictured the chakra from the crown down to the root, then the Nine of Pentacles being the sacral. I kind of get it, but however it hits for you is like it unfolds for you, right? In a way that you get. Now this is his journey to making amends with her, and this is him returning. It's like there was some agreement here when they exchanged tools. When the Empress gave the Ankh to the Emperor, and when the Emperor gave whatever he gave to the Empress to complete that exchange. But when that was voided, it created some kind of distance. It's like the veil went up, and now things are more difficult. And this is his return to honor that. And it reminds me, it was that reading where everything was like inadvertent. It was like we're inadvertently honoring some old promise or completing some old contract or doing whatever, and now something's going to be fulfilled and like the curse will be broken, right? Very like holes. But it's going to require a vulnerability from masculine energy that hasn't really been present in a while. And it's like because it's like masculine, like earthly masculine energy has positioned itself very well. And so it's like it's positioned itself so well that now it has a lot to lose. It has a lot to sacrifice as the playing ground, as the playing field is evened with feminine energy. And so it creates this interesting conundrum or argument within earthly masculine energy of like, well, like, I want to balance this out, but at the same time, do I want to give up my advantage? And it's like, we can say that we don't have an advantage all day long. We can say that things are fair and even all day long, but ultimately at the end of the day, we know that they're not. Because that sort of that like visceral within us, like fighting, sort of the equalizing of that. And the Six of Swords is the last thing here. And now we see masculine and feminine energy sort of sailing away. Oh, look, look. He returned it. He returned the cup to her because now she's holding the cup as they're sailing away. But there is a somber sort of energy here. Oh, well, this goes here. There's a somberness here. It's almost like part of this journey, or the beginning part of this journey, is spent in silence. Maybe processing things. Like maybe there's an apology that needs to be made, or more so than an apology, it's like an explanation. And I don't know. This is the gap that I'm going to allow to fill itself. And it feels like both of these energies have been changed because of what they experienced apart. It's almost like because she was so giving and so nurturing that when she couldn't be or when she stopped being, that to everyone else outside, there's something that she found or discovered inside. There's an evolution here that wouldn't have happened had this weird part. I know I say the word weird a lot. Lots of blues, yellows, and orange tones. Oh. He starts in the dark. The Emperor. The Wheel of Fortune and the King of Cups are in the dark. And then he ends up in both of these in the light. Oops, more so this one. He's in the light. Because of how the cards came out, the first time we see like a feminine energy really, she's in the light. And then she became dark. And then she became cold. And so there is this, it's like it's almost like they've walked a mile in each other's shoes, very like Freaky Friday, very Wish Upon a Star, very, very much so that. Who's that? Oh, snap. Shout out to my sister. I need to talk to you, girl. We need to talk. I'm like, you a star seed? Sorry. Anyway, see, that's that energy of convergence again. And I think it's important for this space to be undefined for now. I don't know why, but I feel like it's important for whatever this conversation is that happens when they get together. It's important that that sort of happens naturally. And this is them both returning to that space. Right? Because now, when they're together, they're both sort of in the dark. Oh my gosh, can I stop dropping cards, please? Okay, so now we see the other side. The other side focuses more on the swords. No. This is something. There's something happening between them in the boat. This is sort of like the outside perspective. And yeah, like it feels like they're both returning because in their natural state they're sort of both have these starry skies, right? And this is them sort of like making the trip back. Now what's interesting is it's almost like because again, feminine energy starts in the light and moves into the dark. So whatever this was, it's like it already put her in position. But for him, he had to move out of the dark, or yeah, move out of the dark into the daytime. And now the sun is setting, and he's going back into the dark. And it reminds me of, why do I keep doing that? It reminds me of, like I said in that first, or in the second reading, it was this energy, or it's like where masculine energy is going through all of these external lessons. It's going through all of these things triggered by people in their environment and triggered by their environment. Whereas feminine energy, a lot of their stuff is internal. And it's not that one is better than the other, it's that we just learn differently. And maybe it's this like as above, so below thing. But it's like the immediately above and below. So it's like high above, like those energies are still in balance. But it's our alignment below that influences sort of like what we're able to experience from the above. Yeah, that's what this feels like. Because then it feels like the death card moved him into this weird thing. And then there's this. I wish I had more space. And then there's this down here. And I'm not going to forget to take the picture today. So that's what I got. I don't know what this is. Yeah. So I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. Good luck navigating the internal and the external. As humans, we all have masculine and feminine energy within us. And as humans, we've all sort of been, at least for the past while, born into a masculine sort of world. And take it as it resonates. But it feels like we're all the children of Adam and Eve. And Eve wasn't a divine feminine. She was made from Adam. So we're basically the children of Adam and Adam. And Adam was that masculine energy that started out divine and in the garden, but then some stuff happened and then he found himself outside of the garden. And it's like we're making our way back to the garden. And maybe again that's why we're seeing more and more like divine feminine and goddess energy sort of resurgencing are coming back, because through the events of last year we're in a space of demanding more from masculine energies, and masculine energies are in a space of sort of shifting and changing in a way that they haven't significantly in a long time. I don't know. All right, I'll catch y'all later. Yep. I mean, they're all applied where it resonates. Especially here. All right. I'll catch y'all later. Bye.